People who've been kidnapped. How did you survive? I was 14 when my neighbor offered me a ride home from soccer practice. Mr. Peterson had driven me before when my mom was stuck at work. His wife always waved from their garden when I walked past their house. They had this perfect white picket fence and always brought cookies to the neighborhood block parties. But this time felt different. Instead of turning toward my street, he kept driving straight. When I asked where we were going, he locked the doors and said we needed to make a quick stop first. His voice was flat, emotionless. Nothing like the cheerful neighbor who'd helped my dad fix our sprinkler system last summer. 20 minutes later, we pulled into this abandoned warehouse parking lot on the outskirts of town. My stomach dropped when I saw the duct tape and zip ties on his dashboard. He wasn't the friendly neighbor anymore. His whole face had changed. The smile lines were gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. He dragged me inside and tied me to a metal chair in what looked like an old office. The smell of rust and old coffee filled the air. There were newspapers scattered everywhere, some with missing person articles circled in red ink. Photos of kids my age were taped to the walls. That's when I realized this wasn't his first time. He left, saying he'd be back in a few hours to figure things out. The way he said it made my skin crawl. I could hear his car engine starting up, then fading into the distance. The rope was tight, cutting into my wrists. But I remembered something from a self-defense class my dad made me take after a girl from school went missing. I started working my wrists in small circles, using my own sweat as lubricant. My skin was getting raw and bleeding, but I kept going. It took 2 hours of constant movement, but I finally slipped one hand free. I found his cell phone charging near the door. Instead of calling 911 right away, I opened his camera and recorded myself saying his name, the address on his mail file, and everything I could remember about getting there. I described the warehouse, the newspapers, even the musty smell and the sound of dripping water somewhere in the building. Then I sent it to my mom, my dad, and 3 of my friends before hiding the phone exactly where I found it and retying my hands loosely, making sure the knots looked convincing. While waiting, I noticed something else that made my blood run cold. There were other zip ties cut and scattered on the floor, fresh ones. There was also a child's sneaker in the corner, size smaller than mine. My heart was pounding as I realized other kids had been here recently. When he came back with McDonald's bags, I pretended to still be tied up. He seemed different now, more agitated, pacing around and muttering about changing the plan and too many complications. He kept checking his phone, which was buzzing nonstop with notifications. I could see the panic in his eyes. That's when I heard it. Car doors slamming outside, multiple ones, police radios crackling. My mom had called the police the second she got my video, and they'd traced his phone location using GPS. They found me still sitting in that chair, playing the part perfectly. Mr. Peterson was trying to climb out a back window when 3 officers grabbed him. He didn't even fight, just collapsed and started crying. During the trial, I learned the horrible truth. He'd taken 4 other kids from our neighborhood over the past year. The newspapers I saw were his trophies, his way of reliving what he'd done. 2 of those kids were never found. The sneaker belonged to a 7-year-old who'd disappeared 6 months earlier. He got 15 years, but honestly, it should have been life. Mrs. Peterson moved away the next month, claiming she never knew what her husband was doing. But I remembered how she'd stopped waving at me weeks before it happened, how she'd started avoiding eye contact when I walked past their house. The thing that still haunts me is how normal he seemed. He coached Little League, volunteered at church fundraisers, and everyone loved him. Evil doesn't always look like the monsters in movies. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you are the most dangerous. Trust your gut when something feels wrong, even if you can't explain why. That feeling might save your life.